Well, we all know why we're here. Here we are. These are the cards we have been dealt. And honestly, I was going to make this video either way. There was work to be put in no matter who won the Oval Office, no matter who won the House, no matter who won the Senate. It's just a little more urgent now. I'm not anti-Republican. If you have conservative values, you have conservative beliefs, Republican beliefs, that is fine. I believe that there can be environmentalists on the Republican side. My issue is with MAGA, that they are an extremist group. They have been known to be associated with these groups. And quite frankly, Trump is the farthest thing from an environmentalist. Now, if you want a short and sweet message of what I'm about to say in this video, you can check out this Instagram post, this graphic. If you want a longer version that's a little more eloquent, a little more cohesive, you can check out the blog post associated with this. I'm going to be referencing it, but this is going to be a little more unscripted, a little more emotional. I have gotten a couple environmentalists saying that Trump is good for the environment, as if Trump doesn't brag about oil all the time. As if Trump does not consistently say climate change is just weather, it's just a joke. He knocked back so many environmental progress steps in his first term, shrunk our public lands in his first term, and why so many environmentalists feeling a little distressed right now. As well as many of us are women, and it is not looking good for women either. Kamala Harris was not going to save the planet. Did Joe Biden do some good things for the planet? Absolutely. Does the Democratic Party usually do some good things for the planet? Usually. But are they doing anything to solve climate change? Not really, and I know it can't be done in a night, and I know it's hard to do across the aisle when many Republicans, again, believe that it is a hoax. Again, that is why I said I was going to make this post regardless, because no matter who is going into office, we had a lot of work to do for the planet. It is just a little more dire now because of what we know from Trump's first term. Whatever negative feelings you're feeling are valid. If you are angry, if you are sad, if you are distraught, valid. Feel your feelings. Take the time to grieve the potential future we could have had. But also, we can still have that future. It's just going to be harder work, and that's okay. People have been fighting for climate justice for the last 50 years mainstream, and even longer before that. Indigenous people have been seeing their lands destroyed for the last several hundred years in this country and in Canada. They continue to store those lands. They continue to be environmentalists. There's a lot to be learned from so many groups of color that I'll be talking about more in this video. A very large privilege to not be able to feel this until now. Sometimes we have to have this. We have to have this spark in order to fight even harder, and I know I did. I wish I had done more politically before this. Past is in the past. What we can do is acknowledge our mistakes, move forward, and fight even harder now that we have the right tools, the right motivation. So this video is going to be some action steps that I'm going to be taking, and I thought would be helpful to share with you guys if you would like to take these action steps as well. Feel motivated, to feel connected, to feel like you are doing your part. Our first category is to stay educated, and I'll go ahead and reference this book first. This book, Let This Radicalize You, because that is the overall theme of what I'm trying to do with my own feelings. Taking my feelings of despair and letting it radicalize me, letting it push me in the direction for change. Let it drive you as well. I'm feeling hope and despair at the same time. But honestly, I think the biggest part for me is to educate myself on history from 1930s Germany, history from Trump's first term, history from the environmental movement, history from the feminist movement, and just keep moving forward. I think education is extremely powerful in the fight, and also just in our own biases. I will be honest up front. I used to be right-leaning when I first turned 18. I never really felt like I identified as a Republican, but because I grew up in white, middle-class, Midwest America, where I only interacted with other white middle-class Americans, Christian Americans. Those were the values that I was fed, and therefore I was not able to form my own conclusions until I left that. Not only until I left that and got to talk to people one-on-one, but start to educate myself. There are many ways that you can learn. I encourage you to seek out valid, credible, reliable sources, particularly scientific sources, unbiased journals, unbiased news media. It is, of course, important to hear both sides, be able to understand why somebody might say something from the opposite side that you believe in. Now, here's a list of books that I have read in the last year or two that I have loved, that have changed me, that have built me as an activist. And if you want to learn more about my book recommendations and particularly reviews of these books in depth, you can follow me on Bookstagram. Education is power. Reading is and always will be political. Moving on, it is time to get involved politically. So you vote in the presidential election. Cool. Please vote more. Please. There are elections next year. Right? There's not even, people often think of the presidential election and that's it. But like, there were more elections earlier this year. Those are called primaries. That is where we elect people to be on the ballot in November. We choose from a pool of like 5 to 10 Democrats, 5 to 10 Republicans, and pick who's going to be on the ballot in November. Not just for president, for senator, for congressman, for governor, for mayor. 2 years ago were the midterms for the Senate race. And this just shows you how skewed our political system is in the US. Because like, even our most left-leaning Democratic representatives are still not left-leaning compared to the rest of the world. Keeping it on what you and I can do politically, vote. all year long. I know it can be very, very discouraging when we see results of the presidential election and think my voice didn't matter because of the Electoral College. But I'll tell you what does matter. Putting people in the Senate and in the House of Representatives who are going to be casting that electoral vote. That is important. Your governor who is going to be making decisions for you and your state at the state level, because that seems to be what's going to be happening in the next few years, is a lot of power back to the states. Not to mention there's stuff on our ballots that affect us. The legalization of marijuana, the legalization of abortion. Missouri and Alaska just passed a raise on minimum wage propositions that will be voted on in your elections as well, that will literally impact you the moment they are passed. And same with any person that we elect. It will impact us eventually, but not immediately. So what I'm saying is vote for everything on your ballot and vote in every election. You get the point. One more thing about the fear that is brewing with the Trump administration. Nothing is happening right now. We still have 70-something days with Biden in office. I think this is something that both sides can agree on. The Biden administration should have done so much more. Not bad, not the worst, not by any means. He has done some great things for the planet, for the people. But tell me why he waited until November 6th to ban drilling in this one specific place in Alaska, the day after the election. I'll tell you exactly why. They were going to use that for leverage for their next run. Now that we know that their run is over, we need to be pressuring them to do every single thing that they can in the next 2 months for the climate. Declare a climate emergency. Give funds to the states. I'm not sure I will ever see myself as an organizer, but I do see myself as an amplifier, as an activist. I'm going to seek out these people who know what they want Biden to accomplish, and if I agree with it, I'll push that out to you guys. On the flip side, just because Donald Trump was elected 4 days ago, again, does not mean he can even do anything for 2.5 months. And that's even just his first day. All of these things that we are fearful of, and rightfully so, are not going to be implemented today and likely will not even be implemented January 20th. I sure hope not. But even then, even if it does happen January 20th, his first day in office, we still have 2.5 months. Find our communities, join them, organize. Okay, bringing it back to politics, please do not stop once people get in office. Texans, once you have elected Ted Cruz, this is a bad example because he doesn't do anything. Once you elected him into office, it is time to bother him. You write to him, you email him, you call him. Any state, right? I'm just using this as an example. Of course, this will be easier if you have people in office who care about climate change. If anything, they might just pass something to get you to shut up. Will this work if just I do this? Probably not. I need to get people in my county to also make some noise. I have a video here where you can find your congressmen and your senators, and then I also have this video right here with some letter writing tips. They are 3 years old, so if you watch them and you find that they're a little bit outdated, let me know and I can make an updated version. In fact, I probably should. We also need to get signing petitions. Not only signing them, but spreading them. Petitions work, just like with writing letters and calling, but only when there's a lot of traction behind them. There were several petitions signed over the Biden administration that made him listen. Stopping the Willow Project, stopping the destruction of old growth forests in the Pacific Northwest, just to name a couple. So yes, we've been fighting for the climate during the Biden administration. Don't get me wrong. We're always going to be fighting for the climate. Something that has given me hope here is also following some of these more legal agencies like Earth Justice, for example. You know, they've said we had this many cases against the Trump administration his first term and we won. They're typically the ones that write and organize these petitions, that do the fundraising, that do the lawsuits and stuff like that. And if you want to take the biggest step here, run for your local office, run for your city council, run for your school board even, like run for these smallest little things. If you run for school board and you implement the first recycling program in your school, that is an amazing step in the right direction, and it can impact other schools in your area. It could impact the mindset of those children. Every single small position of power, every single small thing that we can do matters, and I will never stop talking about that. Politics affects you, and it is a big privilege to look away. So, and even if you are that exact demographic, if you're a straight white man, politics does not affect you that much. You know someone, you know women, you know people of color, you know queer people. Which brings us to staying aware. I know plenty of people turn off the news because it's scary, it's sad. And again, it is a privilege to turn away, turn a blind eye. So it is important to consume those current events, understand what is happening in the world. What I mean here too with staying aware though is not just current events, but staying aware politically. Know when your elections are. Research your candidates and who is running. And also just staying aware of the political environment. I've been watching a lot of debates in the weeks leading up to the election to see what's the left saying about this election? What's the right saying about this election? What are they saying together? Are there anything that we can agree upon together? See, I'm not saying you have to like live and breathe politics, but I hope that you stay a little bit more in the know than you have in years past, because me too. I truly did not know much about politics until October. That was when I really started to care. Here are some news sources that you can check out that are typically unbiased and truly news, because fun fact, Fox News is not actually news. They classify themselves as entertainment. I would also encourage you to listen to news from both sides, to hopefully have these conversations in person and find a middle ground, which leads us into our next one. I'm really good at the segues today. Let's build community. Rather, join existing community. I have seen plenty of people, myself included, immediately upon waking up on Wednesdays, like, all right, we gotta organize, we gotta build our community. It already exists, particularly activists of color. So find the organizations that already exist, find the communities that already exist, keep the community amongst all people. Yes, join that community that agrees with you and that can fight with you, but don't get stuck in that echo chamber. It's really easy to have these conversations with your family who might be right-leaning, might be centrist. Now, I'll be honest, I do find it very difficult to have conversations with people who are MAGA, who are truly very far right, because they believe climate change is a hoax. They don't believe in climate change. They don't believe that I deserve rights. I'm happy to try to have those conversations, but personally, it is a little bit more beneficial to myself and the person I'm talking to if they are willing to have that conversation both ways. There have been people in this election that I knew did not know what the term gerrymandering was. They did not know what a tariff was. And that's okay because our education isn't great, particularly about politics, but there's not much of an excuse when you have a supercomputer at the tip of your fingers. Show people how easy it is to do that research, have those conversations, and there is a lot more that we can agree on than they want us to think. They want us to be divided. Obviously, I'm not going to see eye to eye with somebody who's MAGA, but I've learned that MAGA people are becoming anti-war. I'm anti-war. I look like I'm anti-war. But it's just like, wow, we might have drawn conclusions extremely differently, but look, even the most across the room political spectrum people can agree on one thing. We might be a little bit less divided than they want us to believe. This is also a really important time to be open to letting those people into your circles. If somebody voted for Trump and they come to regret that, they should be able to come to you and say that. I have seen this with both sides. People are becoming more and more afraid to admit when they were wrong because of cancel culture and other sort of fears of retribution. But I think if somebody is willing to say, I was wrong, I regret doing that, I know now that he does not actually stand for the planet, I know now that his tariff plan was dumb. Be that person that somebody can admit that to. Don't be that person that somebody comes to and you laugh at them and you shame them and you say, no, you're not allowed to change your mind. That is the opposite of having an open mind. Like, yeah, you might have an open mind on social issues, but you're not going to let that person have an open mind and change their mind. I guess have an open heart, I suppose. I don't think a lot of people are going to agree with that, but I think that's what we're going to need. But let's bring it back to the people who already agree with you, who already agree that climate change is real. The bar is so low. Check in on your friends, especially now, especially in these early days, especially your friends of color, especially your queer friends, especially your friends who are women. People who every right to be fearful for this administration. Yes, organize together. Yes, vote together. Like, you know, do all this political stuff together, but also just be friends together. Don't forget that part of community too, of just hanging out. Now, what if you want to actually get involved? I plan on making a full video on this later. This is just kind of like my initial stepping stones for you. Do this in a number of ways. You can volunteer for an outdoor organization, someone who's doing mutual aid, a homeless shelter, people who are helping the people. Find an organization that means a lot to you and go volunteer for them. If you don't have time to donate your time, you can also donate your money to these causes. Yes, donating to the Red Cross is great. Yes, donating to these other big organizations is great, but I highly encourage you to keep that money locally. Give that money to somebody's GoFundMe who needs mutual aid for a surgery or for their rent, who can't afford rent. Give that money to a local organization who's going out and helping your neighbor. And again, these organizations already exist. People have already done the work. If for some reason an organization like this does not exist near you, be the one to start it for sure, but don't reinvent the wheel. If something like this already exists in your town, just go ahead and contribute to that already existing cause. My prediction is that so many people on the left are going to be so closed off. I think people are going to build walls. And I get it. I truly understand why people would want to do that, because honestly, a vote for Trump was a vote against our rights in many ways. I like to see the good in people. I like to believe that people are good people and maybe voted for selfish reasons, for stuff they were misinformed about. There was a lot of misinformation. But I truly like to believe that not everyone who voted for Trump is racist and sexist. Was that a red flag for them? No, unfortunately it was not. Yeah, Trump's not going to have a third term, but this really is an advance for the far right movement. And that's really what I'm most scared of, is this far right agenda that is going to continue, has the potential to continue. Basically, I'm making it my personal mission over the next 4 years to convince people in my life that if you're a Republican and you will never ever vote for the left, that is fine. But please never again vote for this far right extremist group. Gosh, I'm getting anxious just talking about this. It's going to be so easy to get stuck in that echo chamber because plenty of you watching, plenty of people already in your circles believe in climate change, and you probably voted for Kamala Harris or Jill Stein, or you sat this election out for your environmental and humanitarian beliefs. Do I already mention that? A quick note there. Please quit blaming third-party voters. And honestly, I'm not even blaming people who sat out. I am sad that so many people sat out this election, but I am not blaming them. I think the blame is fully on the Democratic Party for not being a party that actually had a cause to rally behind. You don't have to convince me who to vote for this election. I was still like, what the heck are they running on? I don't know. As a voter, I did not know, let alone an undecided voter. There were not nearly enough third-party voters to make it up. And please quit blaming the people who sat out this election, especially for moral beliefs. It is not your fault that our two-party system is garbage. That is the problem. Both parties have to be willing to have a conversation. You have to go in with an open mind and an open heart and kindness in mind, and they need to meet you at that. If they do not, that is not your fault, but I urge you to disengage. Nothing is going to come from calling each other names. This goes both ways. Nothing is going to come from you showing up to the holidays this year, wanting to pick a fight and just win an argument and own somebody with little gotcha moments. That's not going to recruit anybody to believe in climate change, respect women. It's not. In fact, it could do more harm than good. If I say that I'm vegan, people instantly think that, oh, I'm crazy. I think everybody should be vegan. I'm going to start slandering you for not being vegan because a couple people ruined it for everybody. People already think badly of liberals. People already call liberals crybaby snowflakes. Some people will always believe what they're always going to believe. Even if you approach a conversation kindly with facts, reason, with logic, people will still call you a crybaby snowflake. Like, some people will. Set the stage, kindness, boundaries, with a goal of not just educating them, but also listening to them. Why do they believe what they believe? Can you both take one step closer? Can there be any sort of compromise? It doesn't have to happen right now. We have 4 years. Of course, vote in your local elections, vote in your small elections. But like for the president, we have 4 years to hopefully convince more people to not vote for the MAGA party. Let's get on to the better stuff, all right? Let's stay hopeful. It's easier said than done. Throughout each hour, I'm riding different roller coasters. I see some good climate news, and then I see how people are treating women on the internet. But then I see how many organizations are already out there, and then I see Trump's climate plan. It's like, it's hard to stay hopeful 100% of the time, and you don't have to. You can have those ebbs and flows, but it is important to keep some sort of hope alive in you, in your communities, online. Share the sad stuff, share the news breaking events, but don't forget to share the good climate news. Don't forget to share the good news for human justice. And it is totally okay to feel sad for whatever you are losing right now, and still acknowledge that, yeah, this isn't the absolute worst thing that could be happening to me in the world, but it is still sad. It is still greatly affecting my life, and it is okay to be sad. But the key here is they want us to feel hopeless. They want us to feel divided. They want despair to win. Because if that wins, we will not fight back. Do not get violent, okay? I'm talking about signing petitions kind of fight, raising money kind of fight. And I think that's why we have to stay hopeful. If we do not have that hope, if we do not have that little spark to keep us going, we won't keep going. And along this same line is celebrate the small wins as they come. For example, like I said, on November, what was that? Biden passed some stopping of oil drilling somewhere in Alaska. In the same breath, criticize him for not doing it sooner, but celebrate that because that is a good win for the climate. There are many other great wins throughout the world for the climate. Also celebrate the wins for other marginalized communities, for human rights. I think it's also important to celebrate the small things in your own life. Don't forget to celebrate your birthdays. Don't forget to enjoy a cuddle with your pets. Celebrate the sunny day that you're having. Oh my gosh, this was perfect. I just finished a book last night called Eloquent Rage, which was on the list that I shared earlier. This quote at the end of the book: maintaining the capacity for joy is critical to the struggle for justice. Things are still as effed up at the end of the book as they were in the beginning, but we can't let the messed up state of the world steal our joy. What you build is infinitely better than what you tear down. Yeah, we do need to dismantle systems of oppression, but what we build is even better. I needed that right now. I hope you did too, and I hope that that quote helped you. So many activists have said for years, and I believe it's mentioned in Let This Radicalize You too, joy is the enemy of fear. We have to keep the joy, we have to keep the hope. Don't feel guilty, right? If you are feeling sad and your friends are sad, don't feel guilty for smiling because you saw a stray cat, right? Like, you are allowed to feel happiness even in sad times. Anyway, here's a list of small wins from this election. There were many, many wins for communities of color, for the queer community, for women's rights, for climate change. Please don't forget to take care of yourself. Don't forget to partake in your hobbies. Don't forget to take care of your mental health and take a break. Yes, I want you to stay involved and stay aware, but if it does become too much for you, don't be afraid to take a step back for a couple days. Don't be afraid to take a step back from posting if it is becoming too much for you. Don't let burnout get to the point of burnout. If you feel it coming, be like, okay, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to recoup. I'm going to take a couple days to just, recover. And then I'll be back and better than ever. That was also talked about heavily in Let This Radicalize You, is we cannot just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Self-care is also a radical action. Activism is not sustainable for you. You're going to give up. And it is better to take a step back for a couple days, recover, than it is to push to burnout and then never come back. Finally, here is what I'm going to do, and here is kind of the future of what I'm going to be doing with my platform. First things first, I have not announced it on YouTube. I'm starting school in January for botany. Gonna go study the plants. Oh, and I'm going to be minoring in ecological restoration. I am making my platforms political. Not 100%. I'm still going to be sharing my individual little tips, like don't forget to use your reusable water bottle. But obviously that's not going to be the focus of the next 4 years. It's still important. Keep using your reusables, keep doing your zero waste swaps. It's still important. Making engaging videos about petitions to sign, making engaging videos about voting and voting all year long. I've also started this Instagram channel right here where I will be sharing, and I've already started to share, letters to write to your government, petitions to sign, upcoming elections per state. I really want to make my platforms a place where you can easily get information, easily get involved, because you don't have to be a content creator to be an activist. signing a petition is a form of activism. Voting is a form of activism. Follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm going to be most involved in real time and sharing more of the stuff that you can sign. If some of you are only on YouTube, let me know. I can definitely share stuff to the community page here on YouTube if that will be helpful for you. I'm also going to be staying up to date personally on current events, on politics. Like I said, I got really involved in like late October this year. I want to stay that involved. I will also be continuing to read my never-ending to-be-read pile about environmental science, political science, feminism, activism, racial inequality, other human justice issues, and you can follow me on Bookstagram to read my reviews and check out my recommendations. I'm going to be staying up to date on the new administration. I'm going to be monitoring it like a hawk to see what is going to be happening for myself, for others, for the planet, and sharing any relevant information such as press releases, petitions to sign, stuff from Earth Justice to shut it down. And as I already said, I'm going to be taking breaks. I don't know how hard school is going to be yet. I don't know how much workload it's going to be yet, but even before this, I was already going to take a step back, probably go back to just one video a week on YouTube, which I don't like because then that really limits how much I can talk about per year, which I think is why it's going to be so important to follow me on Instagram. Instagram is really where I will still be able to post daily, at least to my stories, if not to my feed as well, because it takes minutes to film and edit an Instagram video where a YouTube video takes hours. So don't worry, I'm not going anywhere, I'm staying on the internet, but I am going to be having to pull back, and who knows if I might even have to pull back further if school gets to be too much. YouTube is the first on my chopping block. Not gonna lie. Which is crazy because I started on YouTube first. I love YouTube the most. I love getting to yap for 30 minutes. I love the nuance we can have here. I love the discussions we can have here. I love the positivity in this community here. I think it's just so much easier to spread information on Instagram. It's so much easier because I have DMs over there and polls and places where I can share links. I think it'll be easier to build community on Instagram. So that's gonna be my main focusing point, at least while I'm in school. And this is just the beginning of our next 4 years. It is okay to be scared. It is okay to mourn the future we could have had. I watched a bunch of late night hosts. That was Minnesotan. I watch a bunch of late night hosts. I can't. I'm Minnesotan now. React to the election results, and this is exactly how I feel. Like, I came into this video wanting to be hopeful, but it's hard. It is hard to stay hopeful 100% of the time. But I hope that this video leaves you a bit inspired. We have done it before. Some of you more than others. I was on the young end during Trump's first administration, before I really knew what activism and environmentalism were. There's always going to be people who are already part of the movement, who are wiser than you, who have more knowledge than you, who are more involved than you, and are leading the way. They're already leading the way. So I encourage you to find your role. Even if your role is as simple as signing the petition. That is amazing. Be aware that you have more influence than you think. You do not have to have a YouTube channel with 23,000 subscribers. You can have a Facebook friends list of 100 people and you can share a petition there. Even if only one person agrees with you on your Facebook friends list, that's one extra signature that you can get. You don't have social media at all. You still have influence in your direct circles. Use that for good. Remember to stay hopeful as much as you can. Keep the joy in your life. Don't forget to take breaks. And honestly, we have some silver linings. Maybe we're all freaking out for nothing. Maybe this will be tame, but maybe. That didn't sound very convincing. 2, these are more like gray linings, okay? They're not quite silver shiny. 2028, both parties will have a fresh start. Even if they continue to push far-right MAGA party, at least both sides will have a fresh start. I think that was something that we were truly lacking this year, was there was no primary for the Democratic candidate. Other good news to look forward to, we have each other. There are plenty of people who believe in climate change. That was a lot of talking. I'm anxious. That's it, I guess. That was the end of that statement. But if you do have Instagram, please go follow me there. I have that channel for activism to get involved. I'll be sharing stuff to my stories. I'll be sharing stuff to my feed. Also, go to my website, go to this page right here where I have other environmentalists that you should follow. I would need to update that list. Diversify your feed, diversify your reading. Yeah, and if you like books, you want to read some of these books and more books to come, join the book club over on Patreon and YouTube memberships. It is just $1 a month to join. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your time watching this video. I hope that this leaves you hopeful. If anything, I hope that this at least leaves you feeling seen. Those of us who are probably a little bit more involved in environmentalism and activism, those of us who have an audience, we are just as scared as you. I'm hopeful and I have to be that beacon of hope a little bit to encourage you all, but I'm not gonna lie, I am scared. Many of you say that I inspire you, but you inspire me as well. Thank you for motivating me. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your support, especially as this is my current only form of income. I don't say that publicly enough. I say it like to each of you in the comments, but truly, thank you so much, especially on YouTube. You guys are so kind over here. The trolls on Instagram and TikTok are mean. Not that I care. I know they're trolls and I know they're hateful, but like, it does get to me sometimes. One last thing, let me know what you want me to talk about on YouTube, like what sort of topics. I'm thinking how to effectively call and write your legislators, information on voting, because people don't know that you should vote in more than just the presidential election. I could maybe do a video about Trump's first term when it comes to the environment. I'm just thinking like a little bit of political and environmental overlap, if that would be helpful. If you don't want to see any political content too, let me know and I can stick to zero waste New Year's resolutions, zero waste swaps for beginners. I can stick to that if that's what you guys still want to see to an extent. I really don't think that's where our focus should be for the next 4 years. Remember that your small actions truly do matter and they will make a difference. Bye guys.